Thank you so much, Douglas, for
No
agreeing
worries.
to be interviewed. It's really, really nice to chat with you. So I thought we'd kind of kick off really with you explaining your latest project, The Shadow of the Wicked. Can you kind of take us through it and what readers can expect from it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thanks for having me on here and kind of have a bit of a chat. It's great to talk to someone from out of the country and different time zones. Um,
Really?
yeah, so Shadow of the Wicked, it's about twin brothers that have kind of taken different paths in their life, and they've ultimately got to overcome their choices in their life, and yeah, kind of put all that stuff aside and repair that broken relationship. But it is in a unique kind of world. It's filled of as magic as it's kind of been banished and condemned from
Hmm,
society. So
nice.
so one of the main characters has been training to be a sorcerer behind his brother's back, and whereas the brother has been one of the Emperor's guard to kind of eliminate magic users from the world. So the story kind of starts where the brothers are taken into captive as captors. Yeah, no, something like
Taken captive. Yeah.
that. Yeah. They're taken captive, and yeah, and they kind of have to, yeah, dig deep into their own selves and push through those obstacles and yeah, repair that broken relationship. So that's
Oh,
kind of there is a bit of gore. There is some trigger warnings for torture and yeah, a bit of gory scenes and violence, but yeah, I think it's more of a dark fantasy, so that genre is expected.
could you, I suppose, in terms of going on that experience over the last couple of years of self-publishing, etc., and kind of beyond that initial kind of release, do you think there's any common traps or pitfalls for aspiring writers out there? Is there anything that comes to mind? You're like, oh, if I, next time I I'm going to do this, or I'm not going to do that, or
I guess one of the things that if I had someone to tell me just write and work out what you want to do with it after, because
yeah,
the passion for writing, you wouldn't be trying to write a story if you didn't have that passion for that motivation to either do something with it. So just do it and work all that later, work out what you're going to do with it later. I didn't know I was going to self-publish this book until I started writing it, and if I probably planned that I wanted to self-publish this before it could have taken me a lot longer to actually put something out there, because there would have been so many other things probably attached to like the my confidence of doing it, of actually writing it. So and then probably my next thing would be have merchandise with your with your book,
oh,
because yeah, because it just helps for a better release day.
interesting.
When I had my release day for Shadow of the Wicked, I gave away paperback, like physical books. I gave away ebooks, but I think it would have been more successful if I had merchandise to give away. I think,
Hmm.
like, I know that kind of doesn't sound that good, but like, say, because I published it in June, which is winter in Australia, so I've got hoodies now that that I can sell through my website.
Nice.
But if I had that, it's a very strong incentive. People love free clothes, free new clothes. So
Mhm.
they're always going to. Not everyone reads books, but it just opens your audience up just that
Yeah.
little bit wider, to get people to join your giveaways and your release days. So I wish I did that.
My next question might be a slightly tricky one, but I'm quite interested as to how authors come about to be authors, how it is that they find that passion for writing, whether or not it's through really kind of challenging circumstances or really then suddenly having a story that they have to tell. But I think that at some point, all of us have recognized that there was a point in our lives, whether or not that be childhood or indeed adulthood, where we recognized the power of words and the written word specifically. And I was wondering if you've ever had kind of or can think of a moment like that.
Yeah, I think I agree. Some authors, they do have these moments in their life where something either traumatic or something positive, and they've just got a story to tell. And I think what I have noticed with, especially with self-published authors, that it's later on in life, because they appreciate storytelling and the value of having these stories to share to other people. Because but in my circumstance, I've kind of been around books my whole life. I was reading, at quite a young age. I read through the Harry Potters. I really kind of delve into the urban fantasy genre. I'm not saying Harry Potter's urban fantasy, but as I was younger, I really dove into that urban fantasy. And as I got older, I kind of put it on a bit of a halt with, like I said before, I'm from a surfing town, so I got into surfing a lot, and that I did read when I traveled and that, but it wasn't until I was a little bit older I fell back in love with storytelling. And I there was a moment when I actually, you know what it was? It was Skyrim. Have you heard of Skyrim,
Yeah.
the video game?
I love it.
So a friend was like, "Oh, if you love fantasy, you will," because I actually started playing like video games like Final Fantasy. Really love that side of and they're all different forms of storytelling. So I was playing those kind of video games, and my mate was like, "Oh, you would love Skyrim." Fell in love with Skyrim. Then he showed me Lord of the Rings, and I'd heard about Lord of the Rings when I was younger, but I heard about it when the movies, when I was at that stage where I wasn't appreciating storytelling. But I was a bit older when he showed me Lord of the Rings, and it just clicked with me. It was the movie that he showed me, and I just like fell in love with the lore, the world building, the storytelling, the character development, everything. I just like, it was kind of this realization that I need to tell stories. And I've gone about it in a really roundabout way of trying to tell stories. So after I watched Lord of the Rings and devoured reading Lord of the Rings and stuff, I wrote probably maybe first 100 pages of the book. And I gave it to my friend, and he just said, "Man, this is just Lord of the Rings, but with just different character names." And I was like, "Oh, damn it." So then I was like, how do I actually write? Like, how do I write? Like, then how do I create my own stories? I actually went to university and studied creative writing and English literature, because I really wanted to learn how I'd loved English when I was at high school. I'd always had a passion for the written word, but it wasn't until then I wanted to learn how to read. And then what really steered what kind of genre that I want to write was, and I learned I appreciated the power of writing as well, was The Never-Ending Story by Michael Ende. I think that relates to me a lot, because I felt like a young teenage boy in the sense of writing. Like, I was very young, inexperienced, and I really related to the story of The Never-Ending Story. So it's resonated with me so much, and I always bring it up to people that it is such a powerful novel, and with character development, and there's so much to take from that. The movie doesn't give it justice.
What would you say, do you think, is a really underappreciated novel? Got any that come to mind?
Yeah, I've actually got a fair few, but there's one particular, because it had an impact on me. After I finished university, I started writing, but there was a summer in one of my summer breaks for university, I read as much fantasy as I possibly could towards the end of my degree. And there was one series that really kind of shifted the gears for me to write in fantasy. Also, The Never-Ending Story, but also David Eddings, The Sapphire Throne.
Okay,
Sorry, not Sapphire, the Diamond Throne.
I haven't. I
Um, so I actually got it off my bookshelf before because
haven't.
yeah, it's so this is it. The Diamond
Nice.
David Eddings, The Diamond Throne. It was written in the 80s, and David Eddings did a lot of fantasy. He's got another epic one. It's up the top there. It starts with the Pawn of Prophecy. It was really into this the kind of classic what is it? The hero trope. So the underdog from the farmer boy turned into royalty, save the day kind of thing. But
Yeah.
with this series, he went a little bit different, and he wrote about a character being exiled, returning to find out that his city had been overthrown by like an evil, not evil, but like a wicked presence. And yeah, and the queen is encapsulated in this diamond throne. So, and he has to find the cure for it. So it's really cool. The writing's really well done. The characters in it, there's a whole band of different quirky characters that you end up loving over this trilogy, and I feel like that's really underappreciated. And when I was learning about fantasy, I can't remember who told me, but they told me to go to the classics,
Mhm.
learn what the classics had done so well, because that's what all the modern fantasy writers are trying to essentially not imitate, but we all learn from our teachers, and the teachers of classic fantasy have such a thread through modern fantasy at the moment. So read the classics and yeah, learn from them. So that's what I did. So David Eddings, I devoured all his books,
Amazing.
and I feel like that's a series that's definitely underappreciated and unnoticed
Great.
in
I guess
today's.
I guess in a way it's like similar to what you're saying really about writing is that in order to, you're learning the rules and how to write within those rules and how to break the rules.
Yeah.
So, reading around those classics helps us to
Mm.
appreciate really what we can do to kind of push boundaries and things with modern fantasy.
Well, it's like those tropes, we can either learn to write within those tropes, or we can use them and steer them in a completely different direction. And that's, I guess, we're in such an interesting age with fantasy because it is such a common thing now, like within day-to-day society. Fantasy is so present, so it just makes it, if you can't keep churning out the same stories anymore, because we're in a completely different age when that classic fantasy was such a presence. So we're in a different time, so we have to manipulate those tropes to make it different and interesting to today's audience.
So, with Shadow of the Wicked, and perhaps what you're working on at the moment, what kind of research do you do? Where do you look? Where do you get your inspiration from?
For especially for Shadow of the Wicked, I did a lot of research into the history of torture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it is really disturbing. Just
Mm.
because when I was writing it, I felt like that a like I was saying about those tropes of, say, an evil sorcerer, that to get information, um, you can't really use what the classic fantasy writers did and use magic to manipulate and get the answers that they want. And I felt like, well, for me anyway, like everyone's obviously writing their books different, but I felt like that I just needed to get that bit of realism into it and try to learn from what had happened in history. And I did find that the French history of torture was really disturbing, but they did it to get information.
Was there anything that you did at the time to go, right, I almost need to have an antidote from this right now to get back to
Fresh air,
details? Yeah, for
fresh
sure.
air. Yeah, looking away from the screen. Sometimes, like there was a scene that I wrote. I won't spill it. I was like, that's hectic. I just need a break. And I think sometimes I hope that doesn't steer if there's anyone going to read my book and like, oh, there is trigger warnings and like it is expected of the genre. But yeah, sometimes as writers, we're so invested into the characters and the scenes that we do just need a break from it, and it is so natural. Well, whatever scene it is that we're writing, whether it's a gory scene or say the passing of a loved one, or um, yeah, like there are these emotional scenes that sometimes it takes an emotional toll on writers, and yeah, just either going for a walk or even just going to get a cup of water, or yeah, just getting some fresh air definitely helped kind of reboot my
Yeah.
my mental state of health. My mental.
Yeah. A reminder of like, oh no, wait, I'm not actually
Yeah,
doing
I'm not
that
doing
at the
that.
moment.
Yeah,
It's not actually happening.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely. Yeah.
Nice. Um, is there anything you can tell us maybe about what you might have edited out of Shadow of the Wicked before final publication? Was there anything you're like, no, I'm going to save this for another story, or no, I'm going to take this, it doesn't really add something to, or yeah.
Yeah, so when I go through books, bless you.
Me.
Um, um so when I go through editing my books, go through the drafts, I always have a document next to me saying deleted scenes / paragraphs,
Mm.
because I feel like they're going to somehow circulate back into either the same story or a different story or something. And if they don't, then they just sit in this deleted document. Deleted, yeah. So I feel when I was writing Shadow of the Wicked, there was a lot of things that I took out, because I really wanted to challenge myself with with writing a novella, because there is such a limit with the word count. I really wanted to push my skills in it. So, and that's why I did choose writing a novella, because I really wanted to see if my writing was up to scratch.
So do you have another job other than writing, and if so, has it ever inspired or influenced your writing?
I try to keep things as separate as possible because I feel like that helps me mentally. I like having that separation from work, private life. And when I went to home, working at home, it really screwed me around. I couldn't separate from the mental spaces, and like this is my office for writing, and I had to do work here, and it was just like,
So what does your writing regime look like? Morning,
um,
evening, weekends. How do you carve out that space?
I'm pretty. That's one thing I'm actually kind of proud about. I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to writing and keeping that structured routine. So I get up early. I get up super early. I'm up at like 5 o'clock every morning. So, but that also gives me the time, because now that I've got a 2-year-old son, and it gives me that time to do what I need to do, whether that's actually writing or the post-production stuff, marketing, all that kind of writing related things, helps me do that without the distractions. I'm not saying my son is a distraction, but like, life is very our life schedules can be quite busy. So, and I feel like when I do stuff in the mornings, everyone's asleep, it's peaceful. I can kind of do what I need to do. And then also I do it at night as well. So then it gets to a point like right now, it's 20 past 9. My wife just got home from work, and my son's asleep. So it's this perfect opportunity for me to do stuff that's related to writing.
When you're writing an emotionally draining or sexy or sad, etc. scene, how do you kind of get in the mood? You've mentioned music already. Is there anything else
Mm.
to help to sort of bring you into that place?
I think definitely music, like I was saying just before about it's just even listening to battle sounds. I think
Mm.
it's actually called Battle Sounds on YouTube, and that 100% gets you into the scene that you're trying to write. If it's a battle, that's not going to work if it's in the bedroom. It didn't like it's a completely different scene. But um, I don't know. I think I think I only needed that battle sounds because I wanted to draw out that scene a bit longer and make it really as engaging as possible without it being boring, a boring battle scene. Oh yeah, someone stabbed, someone killed, die, whatever, you know. I was listening to a podcast the other day called The Creative Pen. Have you heard of Joanna Penn? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And she was talking about in the first draft, just getting stuff written down, and when you're not feeling the scene to write, she did in the brackets TK, and that's to come, but K instead of C. It's really weird, but I was like, but that kind of, oh no, that's right. Because TK doesn't come up in the English dictionary, whereas TC will get auto corrected for something like it was something weird like that, and that's why it's TK. So yeah, so instead of like fill out in later drafts, you just go brackets TK and then just keep going.
So what's coming up next for you? What can we expect on the horizon?
I've actually got heaps. Like, I'm kind of overwhelmed by it. I'm like,
you got a lot of projects.
Yeah, it's like almost trying to fit people through the one door, and they're just stuck on that door, you know. So at the moment, I'm in the process of getting my first book published with Of Metal and Magic Publishing. It's a small indie press from America, and I'm one of the core authors. I've written and spoken with Richie Billing because he's part of Metal and Magic Publishing core author. So yeah, I've got my book coming out with that. I wanted to get it back to him by the end of August, and then hopefully get in production for September. So that's really exciting. It's called To Wield the Stars, and it's in the same world as Richie Billing and E.A. Robbins and J.M. Williams. So we're well writing this shared universe. So that's kind of unique. What is unique about this book. And then I've also got another book coming out in the Three Kingdoms, so the same world as Shadow of the Wicked. I want to have that published for next year. Start writing the first draft for that. And then there was something else. No.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, so 2 books I'm working on at the moment. Oh, and the first novel that I spoke about after I finished university, I want to start looking into how to self-publish that. And also I just remembered the audiobook for Shadow of the Wicked is coming out in I think about 2 weeks. I'm just waiting for it to get approved by Audible. I've done the whole process. I haven't really advertised it anywhere because I just want it on Audible before sharing it to anyone, because Audible is such a huge platform for audiobooks. So yeah, hopefully I hear back from them in like a week. And yeah, so yeah, well, it's already actually gone to Apple Books, Google Play, Barnes and Noble, and Authors Direct. So the audiobook's already on those 4 platforms, but I'm just waiting for Audible.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, so that's coming out soon. So that's probably the next thing. Shadow of the Wicked. I wanted to do it for like a 1-year release thing, but this whole process is taking a lot longer than I thought, which sucks, but that's all right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with all of your projects. It's been really great to hear about your processes and what's going on and in the world of your writing. It's been really fascinating. I really appreciate your time.
That's okay. Yeah, thank you for chatting to me about it, and yeah, I hope you've either learned something or just thought something was interesting or cool. How different people from different countries write.
Yeah. It's different on the other side of the world, the process.
Yeah. Do their toilets go backwards?
Yeah.
Flush backwards?
Love it.